Hello and welcome back to the Cymru Cactuars set review for Opus 22 Hidden Hope. We are doing Lightning and Water this time, and we are taking a look at Ultimecia, which is one of our spoilers from the Winter Cup, which Fish you got to introduce in the first place, and it was, wow, yeah, pretty good all round. So,
what's changed now, Fish, since when you first saw it at all? Now you've had a bit of time to see the rest of the set.
To be honest, Lightning isn't really my element, so I still think this is a really good card, but to me it still kind of slaps in the face of what Lightning was trying to do previously with the whole have stuff removed, kind of X-Death and all that. But I think it could be good. When we see it in its entirety with everything else, it should, I'm sure, fall into place.
Yeah, well, I think what we now know, which I think Paul's going to show us the rest of the cards that come in this package, is when we first saw this, yes, I kind of agreed, Lightning kind of wants to get rid of cards for X-Death, but this no longer is just like a generic Lightning card, although it has some applications there. This kind of goes into this whole, probably Ice Lightning Cat 8 package that we've got. So,
if not Mono Lightning, to be honest. So, when Ultimecia enters the field, you can choose one forward, and if there are 15 or more cards in your break zone, you gain control of it. And that sounds like a lot, and like it's quite mid-gamey. However, there are cards like Adia, which say, when Adia enters the field, you may search for one category 8 forward and add it to your hand. Pretty good, because searching has been pretty bad throughout this, really. But it also means that we don't have to rely on the Renoa backup when we've got Selfie and we've got Adia. But she also says, put the top 2 cards of your deck into the break zone as a cost, and to choose one forward, it loses 4,000 power until the end of the turn. If there are 10 or more cards in your break zone, it loses 8,000 power until the end of the turn. So, still getting there with bits and pieces with that. So,
also a nice new target for Griever as well.
Yeah,
just playing the Ultimecia, you've now got this as a Griever target as well.
But it doesn't stop there, because there is also the Lightning legend, Cypher, who says, when Cypher enters the field, you may put the top 2 cards of your deck into the break zone, and when you do so, choose one category 8 forward other than card named Cypher in the break zone and add it to your hand. When Cypher attacks, choose one forward your opponent controls. If there are 10 or more cards in your break zone, break it. Which is, again, this is loads of stuff, but why are we milling? What are we doing all this stuff for? Well, the cool thing is that Raijin and Fujin say that if they are milled from deck to break zone, you can play them for free, which is mental. So Raijin, they both do the same thing, but Raijin gains 2,000 power and first strike. If there are 10 or more cards in your break zone, a card named Cypher gains 2,000 power and first strike. Oh, and the Job Disciplinary Committee. So, crazy. And also find the Raijin as well. Where are we to? There's his little head poking through there. Which does the same thing, but with haste. When they're put from the... when it's put from the deck into the break zone, you may play Raijin from the break zone to the field. It's crazy. And you can mill 2 when you play him as well. So it's so simple and so easy to get to 15 cards for Ultimecia, so you can take a forward or break something with Cypher. It's crazy. It's
worth noting, like, the Raijin and the Fusion don't have the May on the top 2 cards of the deck, whereas the Cypher does. The relevance of that is kind of neither here nor there potentially, but it definitely could have some applications. But yeah, the giving the haste to the Cypher is the big thing, being able to then have 10 things and then attack and break something, a deal, then being able to, there's a lot of removal there, which we've seen a lot, especially in Ice, of kind of the efficiency in the score, being able to play things down onto the field. And this is now all the removal package that goes with that.
I mean, if you look at the Ultimecia as well, we didn't really touch on the S effect at all. Like, it's just S, and then a forward loses 10,000 power.
Crazy.
That is ridiculous, especially when you consider as well the Cypher can get an Ultimecia back for another S effect. Like, and then that also, so you're S effecting killing a thing, you're attacking with Cypher killing a thing, and then suddenly you've got like 3 10k haste first strikes ready to come out swinging, and it's gross.
I love it. I really do.
Sorry, go on, Josh.
Go on.
Well, I was going to say, the one thing I would be completely wary of with this deck, though, is you are never going to win by deck art. And to be honest, your opponent is probably going to see this. And if he can wipe the first lot, go, right, there's my win condition, even if I can't attack, because obviously you've got all these potential hasty guys.
You've gone pretty aggro in there, though, so it should be okay.
Yeah, but again, I mean, with Limit Break being in this set, is you can punish aggro a lot easier than you could previously. So,
Toto and stuff like that is a killer.
So I think these are good and great cards. I just think it's a very fine line you're going to have to walk.
Yeah, definitely. But it's stuff I can't wait to build around. I think I'm probably going to be looking at more Mono Lightning than Ice Lightning first. But like again, the Squall being able to do this and going super wide and making sure that... Let's see, that's the thing as well if you're worried about Shantoto. If you're going so super wide, Quistis is going to dull and freeze everything down because you've gone massively wide. So.
And also, if your board gets wiped, there's a chance you can give loads of them haste, because at the moment, Self is the only thing that gives them haste. But then if you've got the Raijin down, that's already given the Raijin and the Seafair haste, and Self can give something else haste. So you can get wiped, but then you can build a board that can be start swinging it straight away.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've got two elements to give that Cypher haste. You've got the Raijin, but you've also got the Selfie. And the key bit for me is the disciplinary committee cards finally affect each other,
Yeah.
as opposed to every other print where it's themselves and Cypher.
What other disciplinary committee members are there at the moment?
Oh, no,
No, there's Raijin and
the
Fujin.
earlier versions of them. They'd only affect themselves and Cypher.
Yeah, so it's pretty good. I think we'll definitely be playing with that. We're not doing Warriors of Darkness because we did them in the Earth video. Next up,
And
is...
no one wants to speak about them again anyway.
No, but we have Odin, which is worth speaking about. Which it's like, how do you power creep a card in one set?
I mean, you say that, but it's cost 3 or 4, which is a bit specific. If it was like 3 or less or 4 or less, it'd be better. But the fact it specifies 3 or 4.
So
True.
many important hits of 3 or 4, though. You know, Warrior of Light, pretty much everything that the Giga Wall plays as well. It doesn't hit twins, which sure is annoying.
Ixion.
Yeah, but you know that so it hits what it needs to, and obviously your chances are you're going to be playing this in an Odin package style deck anyway, so you'll have your other Odins to hit the other things that you couldn't hit with this one anyway.
I just don't get why you'd play this one over the one from the last set.
You wouldn't. You play both.
Yeah, play both.
Your summon line is 3 of these, 3 of the other one, and like 2 Ixion, and then something else maybe.
But is
Rama,
this
I
one
guess.
still better than the Opus 13 one that gets 5 drop cost down to 2?
I've never liked that card. I'll be completely honest. Or the amount of Lightning I played over the years, I just don't like it. I don't like getting to damage 5.
It's the EX more for it as well.
I think
I've
that
always found useful.
with how easy it is with Lightning to ramp to 5 backups, like it doesn't. You're gonna draw loads of cards off of this. It's no, it's really good, and I think that it will absolutely see play alongside the other one. Interestingly, we have Garuda 3. I'm not really entirely sure what to think of this one, but it's really cool. It's sort of similar to Exodus from Opus 3. So, yeah, when Garuda enters the field, select one number and deal 8,000 damage to all forwards of the same cost as the selected number your opponent controls, which is amazing against soirees. But
They don't take damage though.
Yeah, the old Exodus was 2-sided, and your opponent had the chance to pick something that would kill yourself. Whereas this Garuda is just 1-sided.
At the same time, this can only be played during the main phase and on your turn.
yeah.
And doesn't necessarily kill what you needed to kill.
I genuinely don't think it's going to take out as many forwards though as people might expect for 5 CP. Like the costs of forwards played in decks these days, you're not ever really staring down a board of 2s, 3s. Yeah, you might take out a couple of twins if you're lucky, but
I think that its cost is 1 CP high, its power is 1 CP too low, it's got a bad name, a bad category, and a bad job. So that's enough for me to say probably not, but I think it is really cool.
I guess it might just see play depending on what's the meta at that point. If the big decks are all playing one cost decks basically forwards, it's got a place.
Yeah. Nah.
I guess we'll see.
Yeah, well, I definitely have to see on that one. But next up is thing I think everyone's quite unanimously excited for is Sice finally gets a card worthwhile. After 19 sets, she's back. And she's pretty crazy. So if you control 2 or more Job Class 0 cadets, the cost required to cast Sice is reduced by 2. So for 1 CP, 7k, you can choose one forward, and if its cost was equal to or less than the number of Job Class 0 cadets you control, break it.
1 CP break something? Great.
Yeah, on a body. Oof.
You could get away with playing this in Mono Lightning, to be quite honest, because of the backup. Is the backup Trey?
Yeah.
Yeah. So because of that alone, I think you can probably get away with playing this in Mono Lightning, but Wind Lightning, Fire Lightning, it's just, there's so many places for it, and it's going to kill a 3 CP, 4 CP, something like that. At least, it'll kill at least a 2 CP, and that's still fine for a 1 CP 7k.
It's a cheap one. It's a cheap lightning drop you can do to get the 9 out as well.
Yes, absolutely. So yeah. So pay the 1, and then say tap this and the fire one to play the 9 straight away. Yeah, that's really solid with that.
Might have to get my Class 0 cadets back out next set.
I think so. I definitely will be playing with this, especially with the ace from Opus 21. I'm the card I've been massively impressed with.
Guys will definitely be playing this, so
Yes.
we'll definitely be playing against it.
Next card is Selkie. Yes, we've touched on those. The next card is Diana. We've touched on that. Drace. Again, Drace is back after what, like 19 sets or something, 20 sets even. I don't know if she'd even bothered, to be honest.
Why can't they make a judge package?
I don't know why is this lightning? Like, if this was in a color that Fran would want to play, then it can search your kites, which is nice.
She's meant to search for Larsa.
Yeah, true.
But she's
Great artwork.
Yeah, amazing artwork. I think this card has potential to be good, but because the limit is how good your forwards of cost 2 or less are. And so, whether this card is good right now, maybe not in this current element, but it's the kind of thing that get your full arts now, because there may be one day where you have a busted lightning card of cost 2 or less, and this card is busting.
You don't even want to search for Raijin or Fujin because you don't want to take them out of the deck.
Yeah.
Sorry, Drace, not this time. But yeah, get your full arts. Ninja. Haste 4k. Suppose you can play yourself with Kato Bashtar. So hasty guy. It's something you can do it in sealed. So if you get it, you can do that. But as far as ninjas go, we've had better, we've had worse, but pretty much a no on this one. We have Moth Slasher, which is a job war machine. Funny. And again, it's only a forward during your turn, so it can't block. When it puts the breaks on, it search for itself of cost 2 and play it into the field, so it just replaces itself when it dies.
Only if you still have copies in your deck.
Yes, which has never been reliable enough to bank on for standards. So,
and if you do, you're probably playing the wrong deck.
Yeah.
Common card be doing common things.
Now we have Yag Rosh. So
love the artwork again. Will say.
3 CP backup. The backups other than Yag Rosh you control cannot be chosen by opponent summons or abilities. How relevant is that? Not massively.
I wish he had the effect that the water one did.
Yeah.
I mean, again, it costs 3, which is a problem, I guess. But the fact that it's kind of giving that protection to your backups in an ice, ice versus matchup, then might be all right.
I think you're being too nice.
This package goes in an ice lightning deck.
Well,
no.
I mean, when you're playing water, you play Yag Rosh just so only Yag Rosh gets stolen frozen. Surely you play this as a one-off to stop that happening if you're going to go against ice. That's the only reason you'd ever include a Yag Rosh anyway.
It's 3 CP for nothing, though.
Yeah, you're playing three. It's not a TCP backup, which you can play turn one, which the other one is. So, like, yeah, don't get me wrong. As an ice player, the old Jagrosh is super annoying when you come against someone playing it, but it doesn't happen that often, and there's not enough ice players out there to think that this is a card I need to be playing for that matchup.
It's also the water one takes anything that can target any character has to go on that, whereas this one only protects things that only target backups.
Yes.
Although speaking of Yagrosh and just what Jacko said, now that Shiva, which turns off all character abilities, is a lot better.
We also have Rigby, which is nice that the two Psychoms that Jill Nabat can search from are backups. This one's slightly better, but it's still more of a mono lightning card. So when he enters on 4 CP, you can either choose one forward cost 2 or less and break it, or choose one lightning character in your break zone, add it to your hand. Not massively exciting, but for the choice alone of the two things, you could do absolutely like worse. And killing twins is always good.
Yeah, I think it's the first time Rigby has actually been Psychom as well. I think the Rigby that was previously was a different job, so at least it gives a bit more scope to Jill Nabat. I think up to now, Jill Nabat was only searching Yagrosh and herself. So I guess, I think it was something like.
I guess they've realised the cavalry is a useless job.
Cavalry. Yeah.
Does these new Psychon backups, especially in a sort of Ice Lightning deck, like facilitate the Opus 7 Jill Nabat, where your opponent has to discard for each job Psychon you control?
Quite possibly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if the stars align and you've got a Rigby and a Yagrosh on field, then you play a Jill Nabat, a backup that makes your opponent discard 3 is very nice. But the only issue with that is that the piece that would tie that all together is Jill Nabat. The forward.
Yeah.
Like it's just getting in its own way. Because I agree with Fitch, that has like a real high potential, and if you can pull it off, you're like the best thing since sliced bread. But it doesn't actually get knitted together quite nicely because the key piece to knit it together is the same piece that has the payload.
Yeah, and I suppose you'll just draw it in the wrong order.
Yeah.
Next for our standard unit backups, we have Dragoon, which is legit. It's got a good name. It's in the right element. When Dragoon enters the field, choose one forward until the end of the turn. It gains 3,000 power and first strike, which is legit. For one dull and discard one lightning card, put Dragoon into the break zone, choose one active forward cost 5 or less and break it. Again, legit. This in Dragoon decks will see play 100%.
Get your 4s as well. Sick.
Hopefully this is a monthly promo so we can get the full art for this with extra aliasing.
I mean, I love the artworks. I know a lot of people have complained about 11 screenshots, but
I will never complain about Final Fantasy 11 screenshots. I will never, because I understand that like Final Fantasy 11, it has a wealth of art and everything, but for nostalgia, for players that put all their time into it, like you have quite a bit and everything, this is what you remember and this is what it looks like. So for that alone, I'm just like, no, that's fine. That's exactly how it should look for those people. It does look like crap and it is low quality, but it's still fine.
I think at least they've used the updated graphic screenshots on these ones compared to some of the old ones.
Oh Jesus Christ, this has been updated.
Well, a lot of the old ones you look at and you can see the crispiness on some of the outlines, but I feel like it has been
crispy.
But that's always my argument is that when someone complains about 11 screenshots, it's like, yeah, could you imagine if they had like 9 screenshots for artworks of some of the 9 cards? People would go ballistic for them. They'd love it. It's like, but anyway, artwork aside, card, solid Dragoon card. Definitely see play.
I guess FF7 sprites. Like
I would die for that. I really want that. I want them to use like more sprite stuff from like Final Fantasy 1 and 2, just like 8-bit stuff. I think that's super cute. I love it.
I use them, but they just don't have a backup on them. But yeah,
the last lightning card is Lulu, busted and busty as well.
Is it a full art?
Is a full art, yes.
It took me about 20 odd minutes to read this card, I think.
Well, having a look at the full art first, yeah. At the beginning of the attack phase, during each of your turns, you may remove 2 summons in your break zone from the game. When you do so, choose one forward, deal it 7,000 damage. That's pretty good. But discarding one summon to deal something 5k is I think the main thing that this does, because it basically replaces the slot that Cisne used to have in Chaos Arc, so you can always discard your arcs really easily.
I mean, it's the same effect as Braska, wasn't it? Where it was an S effect but deal 7, but you could discard summons in place. But I think Lightning's probably a more relevant element for this to be in.
Yeah, definitely. Discarding any summon as well, just being like, yeah, cool. Get rid of Arc so I can use it with Man in Black next turn, so it's just out of my hand, and like I've turned that into decent CP. I think that's really good.
Yeah, it's a shame about the removing summons from break zone because it kind of goes against your, like, if you're playing a Man in Black line. So
it says you may remove.
yeah, true. But if you need to get the 7k damage, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
But again, you can choose which ones if you've got them in hand, because you just discard the ones you want to remove. If you've got like repeats or you've got cards you're probably never going to play. And again, it does say at the beginning of each attack steps on your turn, so it can be done as many times as you need to.
yeah. And like again, discarding one to get with a summon that's already there, like 12k is nothing to be sniffed at. So yeah, very good card. Will be after the full arts for non-perverted reasons.
Liar.
Water, cool, nearly there. So Blue Mage. When Blue Mage enters the field, you may discard one monster. When you do, draw one card. And for one dull and discard one water card, you can put Blue Mage into the break zone. Choose one monster of cost 4 or less in your break zone, play it onto the field. When it comes to big monster decks, you want to play your monsters and don't really want to discard them. So
yeah, but are you going to be discarding a blue worm to draw a card? Like, that seems a bit backwards when you could play it to draw a card. The monster recursion. Is there any water monster of cost 4?
it doesn't say water monster.
True, but okay, fine. Even then, are there any relevant 4-cost monsters?
Yes, Phoenix.
And the Earth one with some
Ahriman.
non-multi-element. Yes.
Ahriman, sure. Which I guess more than anything, then this probably could fit into a more water-oriented Earth mirror monster list, but I don't think it's better than what just playing Mono Earth would do. And yeah, I don't think Mono Water wants to play this really.
No, definitely not. Cool card, really great text, just doesn't work with the way that the game is. Next up is Agrius, 1 CP, 3000 power, Knight. When Agrius enters the field, choose one forward of cost 3 or less your opponent controls. If you control 2 or more job Knights, return it to its owner's hand and on damage to reach against 4000 power. Technically not a bad card, but also not great.
Here's the thing with this one. I think obviously you've got the older Agrius, the 5-drop EX burst one, which is phenomenal, and it's not always been a really good card. Just obviously Knights have fallen off a bit, but it does bounce a lot of limit break cards, which obviously removes them from the game now. But is that enough to make the 5 CP Agrius irrelevant? Probably not.
I think it's strong enough in the sealed format. Like, again, another Garland target, being able to play the Garland and target the Agrius, and then play the Agrius, and you've got 2 job Knights because you've got the Garland and you've got the Agrius. So.
I think you're also forgetting though that this actually might be really useful with Corilla, because it means you can play this and a 3 CP Knight.
Yeah, as it'll work with the backups, well, like Bilo. So
yeah, I mean, obviously we haven't looked at Corilla yet, but as far as I remember,
let's do Corilla now then, if we're talking about that. So
yeah, tell me, I actually haven't read Corilla.
I'm pretty sure it's like.
So if a job Knight forward other
4.
than Corilla you control is dealt damage less than its power, it becomes 0 instead. And for 5 CP, on a 5 CP 9k, the main thing is when Corilla enters the field, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. Play up to 2 job Knights with a total cost of 4 or less among them onto the field, and play them onto the field, return the others to the bottom of your deck. So obviously it's not quite as crazy. You can either play 1 4 CP or 1 1 and 1 3.
2 2, etc.
Yeah, so a bit limited, but still really cool with what you can do with it.
Yeah, that is quite cool.
It's quite a lot.
When you pull a bunch of Knights and you pull this off in sealed, you'll feel like an absolute god. I definitely think it's not a hotly contested job Knight though. In that deck anyway. So I definitely think this card will see you play if you're playing Knights for sure.
Yeah, there's a few Gorillas, but they're not relevant at all. But
No.
it's the fact that you've got it gives you options whether or not you do want to play 2 Knights, or you could just play a Garland, or you could play a Gawain, right? So it depends. Like it's a lot of flexibility depending on what you hit as well.
Yeah. Playing a Gawain off this is just so nice. The value on that is.
Yeah.
I don't think there's
Yeah,
too much
no, I
else to
think
really
so.
say, though, is it? Like,
Yeah.
it depends really on how good Knights are. They didn't really get any backups this set, so.
I think this card to me screams very similar to what sort of Vikings were last set, or Opus 21, where it's like it reads really good, but then I think Vikings were a bit of a trap because there was one very obvious like build this deck kind of card, but the deck itself was like it was okay. Like don't get me wrong, Vikings was fine, but it wasn't anything fantastic. But it was just easy to build.
You're making me skip a card, but that is a really good segue into Varn. 2 CP 5k Pirate. When Varn enters the field, choose 1 forward opponent controls. If you control 3 or more job, pirate, and or card named Viking, it loses 8,000 power until the end of the turn. This is sort of everything that it was lacking. So
He's got a flipping gun.
Why is he not a sky pirate?
Because he's a pirate.
Look at his hat.
Yeah, but it doesn't make any sense.
It
Look
does
at
make
his
sense.
Hat. And it was missing his eye patch, and it makes perfect sense. Actually, that's a lie. He's missing an eye patch and a parrot on his shoulder, and then it makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Let
And
me
a
get the
peg
peg leg, mate.
Okay.
I tell you what, Jack. If you pull this card, I will draw on a parrot and eye patch for you. And then you can sleep at night. Okay.
That's fine. So we'll do that. I want my own Jacko.
This is really
van
good,
card.
and it fits in the Viking deck. So good
I
stuff.
feel like now, just based on what Jack was saying, that every time we do a set reveal, you've got to make a kind of a deal with someone. Last set it was the whole full out monk. You pay me 50p to take it off your hands. Now you get to draw on some eye patches.
What can I say? I'm just addicted to making deals.
That's happening if I get it in pre-release.
Deals?
I'm afraid I have to bring down the tone a little bit, though, as I say, what the hell is this?
Busted.
So,
Oh, God.
for 3 CP, you can choose 1 forward your opponent controls, remove it from the game. Your opponent draws 1 card, and you draw a card if it's all off of backups. Now, I'm going to say this straight up here, right off the bat. Anybody who says that these summons are designed with Opus 1 backup Una in mind, there is no evidence for that, and this completely speaks to that as well. There is no evidence whatsoever that this is designed with Una in mind, because otherwise this should be 4 into 3. But 3 into 2 is absolutely insane.
I was going to make a joke when he said, 3 CP. I was going to, yeah, that's wrong, Paul. But
How is this a rare, man?
Yeah, this is reeks of hero, doesn't it?
It's just like it's the fact that it's choose 1 forward your opponent controls. Like there's no restriction on the type of forward, on the cost of it, on whether it's dollar active, and it's probably the single best type of removal in that it's removed from game. Like what?
it makes that Odin look so worse.
It should be like a fanfare effect where your opponent chooses at the very least, right?
Selects, yeah. Like Atomos was, and that was crazy enough as it was. But these summons are not designed with Una in mind. 100%. There is nothing that says that this costed 2 CP to somebody in the first place.
Yeah, because then when this costs 2 CP, it's super easy to play it off backup, so you're always going to get the draw effect. So basically, it's a card that reads for 0 CP. Remove a forward from the game, your opponent draws a card.
Yeah, right. And also, that can mill your opponent. So
yeah, like well,
I dread to think what this is like with not even just with the Una backup, but the one that came last set, where you're getting double draw.
Yeah, this should have been a dark card in my opinion.
I
to go in
cannot
any
wait.
deck.
I cannot wait to use this against like Storm and take out the 3 CP forward.
Oh, Rosa.
Rosa. Yeah, can't wait to use it on her. It'll be the highlight of
do
my
we think
FF
this will
career.
see competitive play, lads?
No,
How good is water in the set?
I think
it doesn't matter. It really doesn't.
Chaos Arc is definitely good this set, and
Yeah.
this goes straight into that.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah. Did they test this thing? I don't know. Well, I suppose we're going to have to.
Maybe we'll be proven wrong.
They were
Maybe.
one card short on the last day, so they quickly made this.
Just remove one from the game. Yeah, sure, fine.
We pull something out of the back catalogue that's it needs to be a rare. Oh, we've only got heroes. Oh well.
Next up is potentially my favourite card in the set, which is Warrior of Light. 40p,
good.
EX, 8k, who on entry searches for one job standard unit and adds to the hand. And if you control 4 or more job standard units, the forwards other than Warrior of Light gain 2,000 power. And for S, he gains 5,000 power until the end of the turn. This is super
Insert
flexible.
backups.
It's crazy. Yeah, searching backups, and again, him being a water card means that he's searchable off of like Aria or Seraph FL. So like this even probably goes in Gigawall because of the amount of standard unit backups that are in that. Like it's it's
The
insane.
crystal deck, like all the crystal generated backup standard units.
Yeah.
Yeah, my FFB deck, it would love this.
It's a big bump along with that van for the Pirates or the Vikings deck from last set as well, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah, because it means that your backups don't really have to worry about like searching for like you don't have to play Bran or something like that. Like you just go straight in with this.
And you're now making all the Vikings 10k instead of 8k.
It's super flexible, and I don't think it will ever not be relevant. So it's,
I definitely think that yeah, I agree. Vikings is probably the best place for this, just like being able to grab the 2-drop one and just going straight off. But I think my issue with it is that it's not that big of a payoff for just playing standard units. I think if there was another card which had some form of standard unit synergy, which actually gave you an actual like payoff, some like an actual like win condition. But I think that probably Vikings would be the best thing for it.
I think
don't
Crystal decks as well.
Yeah, I just think anything that would honestly, I've even considered putting it in like a Earth Water Monks list, just because like any way to search out your monk backups is just excellent.
Yeah.
Also, you don't forget your free backups are all standard units as well. So, like, if you're a water deck that's trying to ramp for your Ash, you can, tap your 4 backups to play this and search out the free backup and play the free backup.
very
Now
true,
you've got 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a
I'll be
really
after
good
these
point
in
about that,
foil.
so. Yeah, me too. I think so.
I think the S could have been stronger. I think the S could have maybe not been 5k, but maybe been like 3k, but to all forwards. But
Or 10k to himself or something.
yeah, I think that could have been a bit more impactful.
But still, just for S,
Sure.
S, you can get one out of your hand and get something for it as well. So he does actually give 2,000 power to everything else anyway. And if you are playing it with Vikings and they are already massive with Faris, and again, if anything, that's the reason to play with this with Faris, who's also Warrior of Light, means that 3 Area and what do you call it, Seraph FL is not a bad shout at all for something like this. So. I think that this will always be relevant to a degree.
Because we kind of joked on stream about this, and I think with one of our interviews with, I think it was Alex, about how Faris never really actually brought Vikings back. Maybe this is the card that will do that.
Yeah, I'm really excited to give it a go. We've talked about these, so where's the next one? Is Siren FF5. Right, okay. Wrap your head around this one. When one or more forwards you control are chosen by your opponent's summons or abilities, you may put the top card of your deck into the break zone. If the card put into the break zone is not a forward, cancel its effects. So, yeah.
I think in water decks of old where Sildra was still a thing and you were playing like 12 forwards, like 6 backups. Excellent card. Nowadays, I'm not sure.
It's a funny one because it reads kind of great, but what deck does it go in?
Yeah.
So
It is a May effect as well, but I feel like the best card that you can ever combo this with is Yule from Opus 5, the start of Yule, but at the same time, that card is still a bit too risky to play. I think it's always been a bit too risky to play because mulling 10 of your own cards is bad.
What stacks
Like-
the top of their deck other than Astrologian?
Leviathan
Leviathan
summon
Yeah.
from Opus 5.
Yes.
I
Yeah,
think
maybe.
Opus 7 or actually. Or,
That sounds about right.
I think in the very least that this goes in a deck with Lena, Leviathan, Lord of the Wall, just so you can kind of get your back. But then I
But,
suppose if you
but that's
rush
the
it,
thing. But you're playing loads of forwards in that.
yeah,
It
and then
can't
if
be
you
a
rush to
forward.
that,
you
too
don't have
quickly.
to. Like, you could play a mono water list that is like all in on your monsters.
But again, like Fish said, when you had Sildren, you could play as little as like 12 forwards or whatever. It was definitely it would have been a lot better, but
Yeah. Right. Well. So I think someone smarter than me is going to figure this one out.
It's a cool card, but I just think it's a weird card, right?
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, one to
I'm glad
watch,
it
I'd say.
exists in the game because like I feel like if people can pull it off, they deserve to pull it off. But yeah, it's not me.
Next up we have Severo, Black Mage, and for 3 CP, he says when Severo enters the field, choose one forward of cost 4 or less. Your opponent controls, return to its owner's hand, and then you gain a crystal. For 3 water and 2 and dull and Breakstone, you can choose one forward and put it at the bottom of its owner's deck. I think it's too expensive and too slow.
Yeah, it's not very good.
well, I think, like as we've said a few times, again, going to come across again probably in the next video, bouncing to hand is just going to get even stronger this set because of the limit break cards being removed from game when they get bounced.
Yeah, absolutely, and you still gain a crystal for that. But
It's on a backup though,
yeah,
which is the thing. If this was a forward, I'd be completely on board. But then if this was a forward, it would be called
Ramada.
yeah, Ramada. So like, yeah.
So yeah,
You've already got Tross that does this same effect as well, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty and repeatedly as well. Like the water stuff wasn't really hurting for ways to gain crystals anyway, but like the fact that this needs your opponent to have a forward, which means that really water wants to ramp into its backups pretty quickly, which means it can't be this one. So no, it doesn't get the seal from me, this one, unfortunately. But
I feel like the only way that this would have been better is if the like instead of the like break effect and bottom something, it was an S effect, and then it would fit in with the FFBE. That would be the only time
Yeah.
you play it.
that's cool.
Mhm.
Then we have one that Fish was quite excited with, which was Chime, which is a 5 CP Crystal Chronicles backup, which says at the end of each of your turns, if you control 5 or more backups, draw 1 card. That's pretty strong.
I've kind of flip flopped a bit on this because I love the idea of having that additional draw that's harder to get rid of than Lakshmi or whatever her name was, but it's not on me.
Yeah, so you will mill out.
Yeah.
One thing to be cautious of as well is that obviously you're going to have to draw that card before your cleanup step. So if you've got 5 in hand, you'll draw off of this, and then you'll have to discard anyway, which could definitely be relevant.
I really like the option for this card. And I like how it doesn't say water backup, so that, you know, if you still want to go for like Northstalin as a way to find it or something like that, it's cool to draw more cards and get more options, but it definitely puts you on the clock.
So not in water, right? Like I feel like this card would have been so cool in any of these elements, maybe like fire or ice that don't really have draw engines. You'd be like, oh, this is a really cool card that feels worthwhile playing. But water has loads of draw, so it's like,
If this was an ice card, it would be called Terror.
Yeah, and it'd be insane, and I would probably play it, but yeah.
Yeah, so I'm not sure. I think there's definitely a chance to see competitive play because, again, drawing cards all the time is pretty good, but I'm not too sure. I think it's yeah. Next up we have Paladin, who has Brave on 5 CP 7k. Oh, that's a common stat line right there. When into the field, you can choose one forward, of course, 2 or less in your break zone, and if you control 2 or more standard unit backups, play it onto the field. That's pretty solid, though. If you're playing mono water, that's extra porums, but if you're playing mono water, you're not going to play this card.
Yeah, it doesn't even. It is any forward, but I feel like, again, maybe quite a cool sealed card. Outside of sealed, probably not.
Piranha. Ugh. It's a 4K during your turn, and when he enters the field, you can choose one forward opponent controls that loses 2,000 power. And on damage 3, when he dies, you can draw a card. Let's move on. This might be the worst of them. Faris, however, is really good. We've got another searchable water backup. Very searchable, actually. So when Faris enters the field, you may remove one forward you control from the game. When you do so, your opponent selects one forward they control and put it into the break zone. To be honest with you, that the text on that is pretty solid, but as a nice bit of removal, especially if you wanted to do something else. But this is probably a card that you're going to want to play when there's nothing on the field already, right?
The sad thing is that it's called Faris, because it's a very good cut. Because obviously, if you RFT one of your own, like the 3-drop Vikings, they just say leave the field, so you would have got the draw off of it. But obviously, you weren't going to want to play the other Faris in this deck really badly. So that if this was called anything else, I think it would be really playable in that deck. But
I'll skip ahead a little bit, because that actually comes into mind, because obviously you can play this and not the Lena backup if you play this Lena and not the Faris forward.
Yeah. But you can also, like, it gets searchable. King Tycoon searches that Faris backup, right?
Yes.
If you want to play this, like, it gives you options to then switch things up on the backup line side of things.
It's definitely worth trying. So Lena here says, when Lena enters the field, if there are 2 or more different elements among the characters you control, draw 1 card. And when Lena enters the field, if there are 4 or more different elements among the characters you control, your opponent selects one forward they control and put it into the break zone. So that alone might be worthwhile to replace the Faris. Do you know what I mean? So this wants to be in the multi-element Warrior of Light deck. So
I mean, this gets immediately turned on with Cactuars, right?
Yes.
Which is pretty good. Earthwater might play it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I really like it. So it's worth seeing if it is worth just switching the Lena and Faris around.
Definitely, there'll definitely be Warrior of Light players that will try that out. Swap out the Lena backup for the Faris backup, swap out the Faris forward for this forward, and see how it plays. And I definitely think you could make arguments for both decks. So I always quite like those kind of little alterations you can make to decks. It stops you feeling like you're playing the same 50 cards when you sit down and you see that the first couple cards you think you know all the cards. Like the fact you've got a little minor alterations that could have quite strong effects, I think is quite cool.
Yeah, definitely. I think this one's pretty exciting for drawing a card and killing something that's pretty good on 3CP. Next we have Folker, who's super interesting as well. So 3CP 7k, you can remove Folker from the game, and during this turn your opponent may only declare an attack once, which is really good for, I suppose, if against a sort of aggro deck. But on damage 3, Folker gains during your turn. Folker cannot be chosen by your opponent's summons or abilities, and during this turn if Folker is dealt damage becomes 0 instead. So she's super hard to get rid of on that as well. So
only during your turns.
Yes.
If this is your out to an aggro match, shake hands and walk away.
No, I definitely agree, but it's an extra tool for that as well. Like water's.
This isn't your answer for the aggro match. This is your way of delaying the game long enough for you to draw your answer for the aggro match.
Yeah.
I think there's a few sort of caveats with this, which I think makes it not as good against aggro as what it looks like. The fact that it costs 3 CP, meaning you have to, like, if your opponent's on the play and they're playing aggro, you've got to wait a turn to play a backup down before you can play this on curve. And if you're not playing this on curve, it feels very bad.
Yeah.
And the other thing as well, if we're thinking mono water, right, then removing her from the game means we're not filling up the break zone for Lena, which is also kind of sucky.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think if she was a 2CP 5k, I think she'd be way better.
Yeah.
But,
absolutely.
Next up is Miwa. So back attack. And when Miwa enters the field, you activate all the forwards you control and negate all damage dealt to them. That's really, really good, actually. On damage 5, when she enters the field, all the forwards you control gain 2,000 power until the end of the turn. I was going to say, I thought this was a rare for a second, but realizing that this is a hero, this will pretty much definitely see competitive play.
I reckon so, yeah. I mean, if it's in so many decks, if it's in Vikings as well, like just being able to have a turn where you can swing everything and then bring everything back up is very good. Also means, like, say, if someone's trying to, I don't know, like Warrior of Light ping into a Brynhild or something, you can just tell them no, they're not allowed to get the draw. It's also very good in, say, like even like Warrior of Light. Like,
I was going to say Refia.
Yeah, being able to activate everything and then immediately go bam, get something tucked away. You know, a lot of versatility.
The deck I immediately thought of when I saw this card was do you remember that FF7 Earth Water list where you use the 1CP
Andrea Redea and Cloud
turn off the abilities and stuff, and I was like, is this enough to try and bring that deck back just for a bit of fun?
I think I can probably work on something, but I think there's definitely better places for it. Like any deck that can play this card can play it really well. Like this is exactly what back attack cards should look like.
Yeah, super good answer for like the ice matchup. So yeah, it's really, really strong.
Next up we have the YYT spoiler, Yuna. Well, a card that I think is incredibly strong. I think this will definitely see competitive play as well. So for 2CP, 5k, when Yuna enters the field, during this turn, the cost required to cast your next card named Tidus is reduced by 2, but it can't become 0. When a card named Tidus enters the field, choose one summon in your break zone, add it to your hand. This effect will only trigger once per turn. Yeah, geez, there's there's no shortage of decent Tiduses to play for this to make either cost like 2 or 1 or something like that. And being able to get back a summon as well, like be it like free cast Leviathan or something. There's so much you can do with it, even with the limit break Tidus, which we're going to get to in the next video. It's just crazy amount it can do.
My thoughts with this card is there was the that's the starter deck Tidus, the light one that gets cheaper.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're not going to get mad value with this reducing its cost because it itself can reduce its cost anyway. But being able to play that card to search the whacker, the starter whacker, and then get back, say, an Asura from your break zone, which can then get you back a whacker to S effect straight away. Then you can just kind of go off of that, and that deck's also running Chocobo, so when you can Chocobo the Tidus, play the Tidus, Yuna then triggers to get you back the Chocobo as well. It's just insane value in those cards alone, I think.
Somebody's going to come up with a mad combo for this, I think. It's I really like the 4CP bounce Tidus, so that you can again like remove a guy and then like get the Leviathan back, remove another guy which they can't play next turn. Yeah, super strong, really, really good. We'll see play.
Yeah, definitely.
The last of the water cards here we have is Uni. From Yuna to Uni, and when enters the field, choose one forward, it loses 4,000 power to the end of the turn. Not too bad, but that is basically what a common would do. Not hit a relevant number.
Definitely a common, yeah.
Yeah, and that effect in the absence of any like reasonable way to give haste, but even then, if you're giving it haste, it's not really the kind of effect you want to be doing it on.
Yeah, maybe
like,
sealed, but
yeah, maybe it's sealed, it like trades up against 9Ks on the block, but doesn't do it on the attack. So yeah, I don't think it's that strong.
Right, well, that's it for Lightning and Water, and we will be back really shortly with Light, Dark, and Limit Break. So thanks very much for joining us.